Hi. So, I recall when my rest began in 2008, God more or less re educated me. And it's amazing the stuff that I had learned from the world. And just when He re educated me, He was showing me the world's flaws. It's like how we so easily believed things, because culture taught us that. We walked in that way for the longest time. And so when God was re-educating me, He was showing me this is what I do not approve of. You know, this is what you have come to believe, and it's so far from my truth. And so He given me the option to go along with His re-education. And according to John, I think it was in 8, did you not know that you would be taught by God? We can all be taught by God if we're willing to sit down like Mary did and sit at His feet and listen to Him. And so if we allow it, God can re educate us according to Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, you know, to be a living sacrifice. And in order to do that, we have to divorce ourselves from the way the world does things. So when God re educated me, I still didn't deal with the inward brokenness that I've had. I've come to terms with the fact that, okay, I have these hurts. This is what God is re educating me on, but not with dealing with it yet. And so time had to pass. And so that's why He wanted me to go into therapy, because here I'm being re educated, but I also need to be able to deal with what this world has taught me and the rejection I felt from it, self worth issues, and to not walk in that again. So basically, the point of this video is, to become aware of what we have learned in this world and how to deal with those feelings. And it's going to take some time, because here we've lived our entire lives doing what this world had said. And we've dealt with self-worth worth issues, we dealt with rejection, anything for not measuring up to what people have said. And you know who knows what kind of harm it caused us emotionally and physically. So the title of this video is called Tainting of Western Culture. And so, like I had already touched on, is that you're this world teaches you certain things, and who knows what you can receive from them. The rejection, self-worth issues, not measuring up, things like that. And so when I started my therapy, I was dealing with how to deal with thoughts of rejection and stuff like that. And so being on the road of healing, I've noticed that experiences come up that I haven't thought of. And maybe they've came up with certain situations, and so I take notice of it, but I never really knew how to deal with that brokenness from that. And so therapy has helped me with that. So really what I'm going through is trying to pinpoint for you what you may also have dealt with, maybe what you're dealing with, and how we can really progress on with God. But not only that, seeing the world's for what it is, seeing what the world has taught us, and having the chance of not following it again. So I'm learning to release more or less what I have been taught, knowing that it's flawed. So if something is flawed, why bother continuing to follow it? So, you know, the the issues that I have learned from the world, for example, of not measuring up, financially, not having what this world says I need to have, Um, you know, if I'm dating somebody, they could be a really successful person, but here I would look at myself and see that I am not measuring up, and I would feel that I'm not measuring up, that they're too good for me. And really that is the thinking of the world, and it pushes away what I have to offer, what you would have to offer. Because if you're not living up to what this world says and you want to date somebody and you two get along, but in your mind you're thinking, well, I can't go any farther with them because I don't have what I should have and stuff like that. And so therefore you then put finances above what is really important. And so that is what I have been dealing with personally. So the target has become my self-worth, not feeling like I'm measuring up to what this world has said. you know um I was taught in this world, and I'm sure you were as well, that your worth is measured by what you have achieved, and not really for you being a human in itself who is worth dignity, who is worth respect, who is worth love, apart from what you can achieve in your own hands and in your own strength. So, in this Western culture, there have been people that have come from Europe and different parts of the world to come to the United States, and they want to pursue the American dream. Now, looking up the American dream, it was in the past, it was for people who wanted a house and a nice car, to want freedom, maybe freedom from communism or anything like that. They wanted to get away from that. But with the pursuit of an American dream, people are also learning the judgments and the pride that Mammon has taught the financial elite, and the elite have taught people. And so when you're taught judgment and pride, then you look down on those who haven't achieved what you think that they should achieve. So you have the purity of these people from different parts of the world coming here, and they want to pursue the American dream, but then they're cornered by people, and they're taught to judge somebody. They're taught to discount them, you know, and you know it's like with a lot of people that there is a personal pride for achieving what they have achieved. Maybe they worked hard, their entire lives, they saved a lot of money, and so because they worked hard, they look down possibly on other people who are struggling. And so there comes judgments with that, apart from knowing that person you're judging personally. You don't know what's going on in their lives. And so people get judged. you know a good example is, you can have somebody that served in the military, and they're suffering from uh that PTSD, and so they can't hold a job because of what they're dealing with. And so what, they then become homeless, and then people judge them. You don't know their backstory, and that's the problem with, you know that whole American dream, with the pride and the judgments added onto it. Is because Mammon teaches the financial elite, and the financial elite says that if you don't look like me, then you're not worth anything, and you should be judged. So the people that are coming from the different parts of the world, there is this purity in their cultures. And then they come here, and this purity then is tainted. And so I looked up tainted in the dictionary, and it means contaminate or pollute something. So my question is, what is tainted? You know, well, maybe they've had mercy where they lived. Maybe they treated people with respect and stuff like that, but then they're cornered by the financially elite and they're taught to judge uh, anybody that is not like them. Anybody that does not look the financially elite, they're taught to judge. So then this purity that they have is, now it's polluted. And so, I was looking online the other day. I was inspired by somebody and their culture. So I looked it up and I was watching like a few videos, and I noticed that the women in this culture, they asked what was important to them in the man that they may like. And, it was hard seeing that because here in this Western culture, a lot of women want a guy. They have all these list of expectations on him. And so he may have such a great heart, but it's dismissed. But these ladies in the other culture, they were talking about etiquette, you know, for a guy to hold out a chair for them to sit, or if they're walking on the road, the man would do what he can to protect her, or they're coming up to a door, they would open the door for the lady. And I was really surprised hearing that you know this is what was important to the ladies in the culture. There was nothing about this Western culture, or you know man having all the stuff that women want in this world, in this culture, in Western culture. So unfortunately it seems like I had already said, that if these ladies ever happen to come to America, then this purity then would be tainted. And that's what is really sad. So when we're born in this world, um, we're taught these certain laws of success. We're taught about what's important, what we need to achieve to be successful. And so the focus then is on material things. And what is really important, like love, takes a back seat. For me personally, since I have learned in this world that the priority is other things rather than love, I could see myself in a negative light. I have a lot to offer, the opposite sex. I I'm caring, I'm compassionate, I'm passionate, I'm empathetic and stuff. And so that is not important in this culture. And it's really sad that you would dismiss love because you feel like you're not measuring up. And this is things that I had dealt with for the longest time. And I would see guys that have achieved things, and I would set myself next to a woman that is possibly successful, and I would have that feeling like I need to back off, that I'm not worth being loved because I haven't achieved certain things. And you may have also felt that same thing. Maybe you've met a guy, or maybe you've met a girl, and you struggle your entire life. You work hard, but you haven't achieved certain things, so you feel like you're not worthy to be with that person, that you're not worth loving or being loved. And so this is the things that Mammon teaches. And Jesus had really touched on it, when he said, do not serve God and Mammon. Well, the church has served Mammon for the longest time. And the world has given its approval to that, and even the church has. And so the church has followed in line with this Western culture. So, um, we know that mammon moves priority from love to being successful. You know, there's such a focus on that the man's working so many hours, the man's trying to achieve all that, and when his focus is on trying to achieve certain things, then is he thinking about what his children want at that time? Is he thinking about what his wife wants? Is the wife fulfilled emotionally? Does she feel secure emotionally? You know, you may be secure financially, but how many, what is the reason why a lot of couples divorce? And a lot of them say irreconcilable differences. Well, that's because the heart wasn't the focus anymore. When the heart's not the focus, other things become the focus. And so with the family, which is important, the focus then moves, okay, well, I need to work for them to have enough. So they're no longer focusing on the children's needs. And then we have somebody that is dealing with self-worth, which is really important. You know, making somebody feel good, building somebody up, letting them know how special they are, and so that then is moved to your worth being in what you have achieved for yourself. So you feel important, you feel like you're worth a lot because you then are successful or you're on the path of achieving success. So all these things that mammon sways the focus of man to, from what is important to what is not important. So that's one of the things that therapy has taught me, is to really counter negativity that I'm feeling. I would try to come against, certain thoughts of negativity, feelings of rejection, feelings of, you know, not being happy with myself, others not being happy with me, others thinking I'm trash and all that. I had to deal with those thoughts one by one, and I had to dissect them and then try to transplant the positive thoughts in that place. And unfortunately, in this world, each of the negative things that we hear from people not measuring up or whatever is a stab at our hearts. So you have to come against also what the Western culture dictates, the things that you have to follow. And you have to realize, is it really important? You know, is it going to trash who you really are? Does it put up who you really are and force you into saying that your worth is only by what you do? So have you dealt with the feelings of not measuring up to people? And the things that I really have learned is, since I know that mammon has taught man to focus on wealth and stuff like that. Well, the whole main breadwinner thing, as I had, looked information up a few years ago, that it started in the late 1800s. And, this whole successful mentality and stuff like that, it wasn't even really thought of. And so it's like maybe somebody has achieved, financial success with their business. And let's say that this started in the late 1800s. Well, they tell their neighbor, well, this is what I did, maybe you should try it. So maybe that person tried it. And so these two people are successful in what they're doing. And so that it's told to other people it's been successful. So then after a while, the recommendation turns into sort of like a moral law that if you don't do this, then you are a failure, that you're lazy and stuff like that. So with this thinking repeated centuries and centuries after, or decades after, then this becomes a moral law. And so when this moral law is not followed, then you are criticized and you're trashed. So basically the love of family and being with them and stuff like that has taken a back seat while the focus has been on finances. So I have learned, and what God had taught me was that, when you're not following this cultural law, you have this ungodly shame. And it's not the shame that God wants us to have, it's the worldly shame. And he taught me that it's the ungodly worldly shame that man is following and what he has to really work against and dismiss. And so this has been ingrained. I mean, it was ingrained in me for years. I'm sure it was ingrained in my father, his father, and centuries before. And it's ingrained in people around you. This is the universal ungodly law that has been taught people. I don't see it in that the videos of the ladies, they weren't tainted by that, but only it seems like when they come to America is when you have encountered these kind of thoughts. So we have like an example that I had thought of that maybe would solidify this point is that, let's say somebody in this family folds clothes a certain way. And so they pass that down to their kids. And the kids pass that down to their kids. And it goes on decades later. So let's say that one kid goes to a store and they learn to fold something differently. So they go back and they start folding it that way rather than what they were taught. Well, the previous, you know, the maybe their family that has folded another way will persecute that change. And so when somebody doesn't follow this ungodly cultural law, they will get persecuted for not doing it. And that's exactly what a lot of people who are following God, who want to do what Jesus had said by, not loving this life, but loving him and doing what he wants, they'll get persecuted. Or somebody that, doesn't care to follow, the expectations that this world places on them, and they finally have seen what is really important, like love and family and stuff like that. Well, they're going to get criticized for not following that. So, we'll get movies that we see, and I'm going to give an example. And these movies are like a hint at what is really important. So I think about the movie Tombstone, which is one of my favorites. I've always loved watching that. I love Wyatt Earp. I love his sense of duty. I love how he comes against, those who break the law. And so when he got finished dealing with all the cowboys, taking care of all of them, losing Doc Holliday, Doc Holliday told him to go get that girl that he had fallen in love with. And so he does. But he goes and sees, I think her name was Kate. He sees her. And she's, I guess she's getting ready to go home. But she's at the mirror, I guess maybe taking off her makeup or whatever. And she sees Wyatt Earp. And he says to her, I have no pride, no dignity, no money. I don't even know how we're going to make a living. But I promise you, I would love you the rest of your life. And then she says to him, she says, my family is rich. And so everything was okay. And, people would be like, oh, that's so beautiful and stuff like that. But really, if that happened today, then people would criticize his predicament, what he's in, telling him that you need to do something about that. So you see something beautiful like that, and it's something that is a hint to us of what is really true and how we shouldn't follow in line of the world. And somebody could say, what is somebody going to do? Live on love? Well, I mean, you don't know. If you can deal with the inner turmoil that you have dealt with for the years, if you can deal with the negative things that you have learned from the world, what you've the hurt that has caused you, if you can heal from that, if you can really see what is important, then you have the chance of making the adjustments necessary. And it really comes to knowing that God is your source, knowing that he provides, knowing that he can take care of you. But the real important thing is knowing what he wants you to do, listening to him and being guided by him. And that's something that a lot of people in this world haven't thought of. They haven't thought of doing that, but it's really important that when we do follow that. So let me pose a question to you before I close. Let's say if you had no responsibilities and expectations of this world, think about all the expectations and responsibilities you have had and what you have currently. Think about what your life would be if you didn't have them anymore. Now, ask yourself what is important at that moment. Or you could think about it this way. Let's say that you're part of a corporation and all expenses were paid. All your bills were paid, mortgage, car insurance, things like that. Let's say all that was paid. Now ask yourself, what then is important? Now, if all of that is coming to mind, you're going to then see what is really important. Family, the heart of the person that you love. Well, you don't have all the things of the world holding you down. So now you can fully love. So you see what really is important, and that is love and that is family. I think about a couple of examples. George Bailey, he was worried about that $8,000. And so he wanted to end his life because, he had lost it. But when the angel Clarence showed him what his life was like without everyone, his eyes opened to what was really important, and that was his family. And Clarence had said in the book of Tom Sawyer, no man is a failure who has friends. And that's a clue of what is really important in this world. And then another example I think of is the movie Click with Michael Newman. He's wanting this promotion, and him and his family wanted to go on a camping trip, but he can't do it because he wants this promotion and stuff. And his wife's like, well, just make sure you're not upsetting the wrong people, which was his family. So he put his job above what was really important, and that was his wife and his kids. And so when he was shown, exactly where this job would have gotten him, he realized he lost everyone and for nothing. And at the end of it, he saw what was important, and it was his wife and his kids. So he had that opportunity to change. So what really needs to happen is a refocus. You need to refocus in your life, taking the old lens out and seeing with your new lens. Work on the issues on the inside of your heart, finding out, what what issues you're dealing with. Is it self-worth? Anything that has taken a stab at your heart and who you are, where your qualities that God had given you have been pushed to the side and you're forced to focus on making it and being financially successful. So I'm going to end it here, and I pray that this video has blessed you.